Have you ever finally sat down to relax, only to have that nagging voice in your head just scream that you're wasting time, that you should be doing something productive? Well, today we are going to dive deep into the hidden psychology behind that guilt, and we're going to explore why doing nothing can actually feel so incredibly dangerous. So, does this question hit home for you? Just picture it. You've finished a really long week, you're finally on the couch, but instead of that feeling of peace, you get this jolt of anxiety. If that sounds at all familiar, you are so not alone. It's a really common psychological pattern, and believe it or not, it actually has a name. It's called productivity guilt. And here's what's so crucial to understand. This feeling is not a sign that you're lazy or that you're unmotivated. Not at all. From a clinical perspective, it's actually a deeply ingrained signal from your past. It's a survival mechanism that has just plain outlived its purpose. So where does this wiring even come from? Well, to really get it, we have to go back. For a lot of high-achieving adults, the story really starts in childhood, which is where the brain first learned that being constantly on meant being safe.
There's a psychological term for this. It's called parentification. It's basically what happens when a child has to become the responsible one, the problem solver or the emotional manager for the adults around them. This experience teaches your young brain a really powerful and honestly a damaging lesson. Your value comes from solving a crisis. Your worth gets tied directly to how useful you are to other people.
And this quote just captures that feeling perfectly. If your childhood was chaotic, then those quiet moments, they weren't peaceful. They were suspicious, right? They were that tense silence right before something was about to go wrong. So your nervous system adapted to that chronic stress, and it learned to associate stillness not with safety, but with impending danger.
And this gets right to the biology behind that feeling. Your brain can get stuck in what we call a beta state. It's hyper-alert, it's vigilant, it's always seeing rest as a potential threat. It's constantly scanning for the next problem it needs to solve. But what you're really longing for is the alpha state, which is where the brain can finally associate quiet with recovery and peace. That guilt you feel, that's your survival-wired brain resisting the shift into a state that it was literally taught to fear.
But here is where we are going to flip the entire script. What if that feeling we call laziness isn't a weakness at all? What if rest isn't the enemy of productivity, but its most powerful secret ingredient? Let's totally reframe this. Highly efficient minds, they instinctively resist busy work. That urge to just pause, to not jump into a task right away, that's not laziness. It's cognitive reflection. Your brain is actually saving its precious energy for deep, meaningful work, instead of just wasting it on surface-level tasks. It's a sign of a mind that's wired for efficiency, not a flaw. This right here is the crucial mindset shift. We have to stop seeing rest as some kind of reward we only get after we've burned ourselves out. In high-performance psychology, rest is a strategic tool. You can think of it like a Formula One car pulling into the pit stop. It's not there because it's broken. It's there to refuel and optimize for the next lap. So what's actually going on during this pit stop? Well, during true rest, your brain is incredibly active. It's not off. It's in this powerful recovery mode. It's consolidating memories, it's filing away key information, and it's restoring the exact neurotransmitters you need for focus and sharp decision-making. Denying yourself rest is like trying to run a marathon on an empty tank. You're just not going to get very far.
Okay, so we understand the problem, and we've reframed the solution. But how do we actually break free from this guilt cycle in our daily lives? The key is to change who you're performing for.
The answer really lies in developing what psychologists call an internal locus of evaluation. Now, I know it's a fancy term, but it's for a simple, powerful idea. You stop measuring your worth based on external applause, likes, praise, or being seen as productive, and you start measuring it against your own internal scorecard. Just look at the difference here. External validation, it creates this constant, draining need to prove your utility. But when you shift to internal standards, like asking yourself, did I learn something today, or did I act in line with my values? You create a sustainable sense of peace. Your self-worth is no longer up for debate every single day. And that brings us to our final and maybe our most important message. This isn't about blaming yourself or trying to fix some flaw. It's about offering yourself some much-needed compassion.
Your nervous system isn't broken. It did exactly what it was supposed to do to protect you in a stressful environment. It adapted. The work now isn't to punish it, but to gently teach it that the war is over, that it's finally safe to come home, to power down, to rest. I want you to let this sink in for a moment. Your value as a human being is inherent. It is not, and it has never been, tied to your to-do list or your inbox count or how much you accomplish in a day. You are valuable simply because you exist. So the next time that productivity guilt creeps in, I want you to remember what we talked about today. See that feeling for what it is. It's an old echo, a survival pattern that you just don't need anymore. Now that you can see the pattern, the real question is, can you give yourself permission to finally, truly, just be?